Hello and welcome to Computer Science 30S. This is lesson 2, reporter blocks. After this lesson, you will know what a reporter block is. You'll understand that a reporter block is a type of function, and you'll also be able to create your own reporter block. All right, let's get started. Now we're going to create something called the max block. We're going to make a different kind of block. It's called a reporter block. To demonstrate this, we're going to make a block called max that takes two numbers as input and reports the bigger value, the maximum. Basically, you're just checking to see if one is bigger than the other, but you're doing it either finding if one is bigger than the other or if the other one is bigger than the other, so it's trying to find the maximum. So it just simplifies code a little bit here, but basically we're going to be just using this as an example of a different type of block. So we're going to click Make a Block and select the Operators tab. I'm going to go ahead and do that right here. I'm going to go Make a New Block, and we're going to click Green Operator, and we're going to make it a reporter, like so. This will give the block its round shape as shown above, so you should get this round shape like this. Let me just see if I can get that right there. There it is there, the round shape. As the name implies, reporter blocks can report, or in computer science terms, return a value. In the image below, you'll see that we use the % shortcut for making input variables. So you should go ahead and do that. Type in max of %x and %y. Remember that you can also use the plus signs too. So just be aware that there's two different ways to do that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Max of, create max of, and we're going to go %x. And I always forget the syntax here. I'm going to go and %y. Like so. And you get a new block. Notice that it's in green. It has that round shape. And I've got my variables x and y in there as well. Okay, good. This should give you a blank block editor. Notice the words report something at the bottom of the block editor, and you should see that right down there. You can either type where it says something, or you can drag other blocks there, and we need to figure out what should be reported. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. Now, reporter blocks are a type of function. This is a generic computer science term for any code that takes values and returns or reports some value. So the generic word for these type of things is called a function. Scratch, BYOB, Snap, whatever you want to call it, refers to these as reporter blocks. But the idea of a function is fundamental computer science idea. Keep track of the value to be reported. We're going to make another variable. So we're going to use the script variables block, and that's over here on the left-hand side of your screen. Go to the variables palette and drag script variables into your block editor. After dragging it into the block editor, you can click on the name of the variable and change it to bigger value. So let's go ahead and do that. Variables, script variables, we're going to drag that over here, and I'm going to type in the name bigger value. Like so. In order to complete this block, you'll need to do the following. Use an if-else block to set the variable bigger value to either the x or the y, whichever one is bigger. You can set the value of your script variable using the set block variables palette, just like you would any other variable. Once you've dragged the set block into the block editor, you can select bigger value from the drop-down menu. You must use the drop-down menu. Dragging the variable bigger value will not work, and I don't know why that is like that. Maybe newer versions of this software have fixed that. Maybe you're even using a newer version that it will work, but at this particular time that I'm creating this, I have to use the drop-down value. And the final step then is to drag the bigger value variable into the box next to the report at the bottom of the block editor. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to minimize this and see if I can do this all at one point here. Okay, so I'm going to use an if else like this, and I'm going to use an operator, the greater than, like so. I'm going to drag that into there. And if x is bigger than y, then I'm going to set I'm going to set bigger value to x. And here you'll notice I can drag here, but this one I had to use the drop down. Otherwise, if x is not bigger than y, then y is going to be determined as the bigger one. bigger value equal to y. And some of you may be realizing that there's a problem here. We're going to solve that real soon. And then remember that I'm going to report bigger value down here. Here's where I'm actually allowed to drag that down into there, like so. So if you haven't done that along with me, you should pause the video and go ahead and do that. Now try this script out to try out your max value block. So we're going to click OK here, and then we're going to create actual main code over here. When the green flag is clicked, I'm going to ask just for an X value and wait, and then I'm going to set, and I'm going to create a new variable, call it num1. Num1 is going to equal my answer. And then I'm going to basically duplicate all of that, except this time it's going to ask for a y, and I need a new variable, call it num2, and I'm going to set number 2 to the answer. And then I'm going to say, and here's where I'm going to use my new block, which is an operator block that I created, max of. I'm going to say the max of, use my number 1 and number 2 variables. Those are the names of the variables in the main code, and I'm going to do that. And there we go. Let's just see if this works. So it asked me for X. Let's type in the number 7. It asked me for, oh, I don't want that. I've got a problem here. This should be the letter Y, which is why I was having problems before. Let's try this again. X is 7, Y is 4, and it tells me that 7 is the bigger value. Let's see if it works the other way. Let's go 4 and then 7, and very good, it works. Okay, so we've created our first reporter block. Now, you probably realized what happens if the values are the same and there is no bigger one. Okay, well, let's just test that out, see what happens. I think you probably know what's going to happen here. And is that okay? Is that okay that it reports 7 as the bigger one? It depends on the situation here. In this case, it's certainly the bigger number, or it's equal to the biggest one. You might want it to return that there's a tie depending on your game. For now, let's just leave that. If you did want to fix that, you'd have to report some value here if they're equal to each other, and then you'd have to check to see if max of is equal to that flag or something that says that they're equal, and then deal with that over here. So for now, let's just worry about this. You should also note that the variables are called num1 and num2 in the script, but x and y in the block. This means that the block can work for any two variables that you send it, not just num1 and num2. I could do it over and over again with various other values. It's generic. This means that it can be used in many other scripts. No need to change the name of the variables. So if you were to save max, your max block, and use it in a different program, you wouldn't have to check out what the variables are called and make sure it all matches. It would just work because num1 becomes x and num2 becomes y. Okay, this is actually considered the proper way to do it. It's sort of industry standard. You should get used to doing things this way. All right, so I hope you can remember from last lesson how to set up default values. Max value is a block that should only accept numbers. So I'd like you to spend a moment or so and edit your block so that it only accepts numerical values and it has default values of 5 and 10. You should also edit the block so that if the values x and y are equal, then it returns the value -1. So we'll assume that these are positive values. The main script can then understand that the values are equal. Make this change using an if in the main script as well. So go ahead and try that. You may have created the block and forgot to select it as an operator block, as I've done in the past before. This time I did it right. It might remain in gray color, so if you did do this, you're going to have to recreate it, making sure that you select operator, let it show up in the operator palette. Make sure it works, then delete the main script and save it as max value. Now you can import this project anytime you need a max value block. So go ahead and try that on your own. Then I'm going to show you the answer right away. You should pause the video right now. Okay, if you're looking for the answer to this, let's go ahead and complete that. So we're going to have to edit the max, and we want it to have default values of 5 and 10. Let's go ahead and let's do that part first. That's the easy part. We want them to be numbers, and the default is 5. And here, the y, I want it to be a number with a default value of 10. And I also need to deal with if they are equal to each other. So we're going to need a double if here. So if x is bigger than y, then we'll set bigger value to x. Otherwise, we need to check, do this. Otherwise, we're going to check to see if operator if the y is bigger than the x, and if the y is bigger than the x, then set my bigger value equal to y. Otherwise, I'm going to return, I'm going to set bigger value. Oops, wrong spot. And I'm going to set it equal to -1. Again, we're assuming here that these are positive values. So what this is going to do is it's going to check to see if x is bigger than y. If it is, then the bigger value becomes x. Otherwise, it checks to see if y is bigger than x. It sets the bigger value to y. And if that's not true, then they must be equal to each other, and we're going to set the bigger value equal to -1. Okay, then over here, let's just see if this works before we clean it up a little bit. We got 7, we got 4, we got 7, perfect. Let's try 4 and let's try 7. We got 7, that's perfect. Let's try 7 and 7, and I get -1. Super. Okay, so all we do here is we have to have an if. And I would say if, let's duplicate this. Let's just see if it's equal to, if the max is equal to -1, then we're going to say same number. Otherwise, we're going to say what the max is. Okay, let's try to do the test for this. We should try all different ones there as well. Let's go 7, 4, we get 7. Let's go 4 and 7, we get 7. And let's go 7 and 7, and we get the same number. Perfect. There's our answer. Hopefully you did all right with that, and if not, then you should give that a copy. Now, the practice was also you should delete the main script and save this as max value, and then you can use this block anytime you want. So if we delete this, and then go ahead and go save as, and then you could save this as max block wherever you need to, and it would only save this particular block right here, and then you can import that into another project that you might need. So you should go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's your practice assignment for this. I'd like you to create a reporter block that determines the average of two values, and think about how you could use this in your nested triangle code, and here's how that would work. So draw a triangle using the block that you did before. Change the x by the triangle side length, we're moving it over to here. Draw the triangle using a block. Change the x and y to the upper peak of triangle 1. And here you're going to use the average, because the average right there, the x value right there, is the average of this block right here and that one right there. So you need to create a reporter block that finds the average of two values. And then I want you to use that reporter block to move the cursor, move your script, or move your sprite to this point right here. I'd like you to show me your modified code when you're done, and I'll give you the answer in the next lesson. Good luck with that.